This is Gabriela on the scene today with Talk Network Radio. We have a real treat for you just around the corner, and that is Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd. Jeff is the owner of Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and he will be coming to you weekly to teach you more about empowered living. Now, let's join Jeff already in the studio.
Hello and welcome. I'm Jeff Byrd with Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and this is Empowered Living. Now, today, I believe, if I'm correct, this is going to be airing on Christmas Day. So for all of you who celebrate Christmas, a very, very Merry Christmas to you. I'm glad that you took a minute to tune in if you're watching it on Christmas or maybe after Christmas, catching the replay. But today's topic is kind of fun, and the title is Shaking Hands with an Empty Glove. And maybe some of you have had this experience where you have had a conversation with somebody and you come away going, boy, that just felt like shaking hands with an empty glove. Now, my dad used to say this when I was a kid. That's where I got this expression from. And he would come away from a frustrating meeting with somebody who didn't really connect very well, and he'd go, boy, talking to that guy is like shaking hands with an empty glove. And what he meant was, boy, you got a person there, just like a glove, but there's not much substance there. There's not much connection. You grab hold of that empty glove and you don't really feel like you grabbed onto anything. And some conversations are a lot like that. You're talking to somebody and, boy, you don't really feel like the lights are on, but nobody's home, kind of thing. And it can be frustrating. And there can be a number of reasons why people are there, and we definitely have to give some grace. And but what I want to talk today about is not dealing so much with those other people, but not being an empty glove ourselves. Because the day before I recorded this, which has probably been a couple of weeks ago now, I had a particularly long day, and it was a little bit of a discouraging day. There was some issues with some other people going on that were important to me, and they weren't doing so well. And it was a little bit down day. And like I said, it had been a very long day. I'd been at it about 12 hours already, and I was supposed to go to this holiday open house party for some people who are good friends and pretty close to me. But I tell you, I really didn't feel like doing it. It's just one of those deals. Nothing against the people. I just wasn't there. Just wasn't feeling it. But I told them I was going to go, so I'm like, well, I'll just pop in for a little brief minute and then I'll go. And so I went there and greeted everybody, put on my best energy to greet, and my friend who's the director there, he was introducing me to a bunch of people, so I'm glad-handing and smiling at a bunch of people I don't know from Adam, and trying to have a good time, and chatted with some friends for a little bit, and then I got finished pretty quick. I was about done, and it got crowded, and it was getting warm in there, and I just wanted to be home. I just wanted to be out there and just be quiet, alone in the night, and just drive home. My wife was off teaching an art class. I just wanted to have a little bit of time to myself, and I just didn't feel like any more conversations. And so I didn't want to say goodbye to my friend who was the director, because I knew he's a wonderful, he's like a partying, kind of outgoing, somewhat loud Italian guy, and I knew he was gonna draw attention to that fact, and then I was gonna have to spend another half hour saying goodbye to people. And I didn't, because everybody would notice that I was leaving. So I just wanted to get out of there. So I kind of waited until he had turned and was talking to some other people, and then I just kind of snuck out real quick. And of course, his wife caught me on the way in. She was coming in as I was going out, so stopped and chatted with her, and then she went immediately, and I guess and told him that I was leaving, because he calls me right just after I got out of the parking lot. And, oh, you left? I didn't get to say goodbye. I'm like, yeah, I kind of snuck out on purpose. And he said, well, you did a good job of it. I said, listen, said, love y'all. Hope you have a great rest of the party. It's been a long day, and I just need to get home. And so he was very gracious and understanding. But I was feeling like an empty glove, right? And so there are some characteristics of an empty glove. And the first one is, and I call this empty glove syndrome. So there's a few characteristics. The first one is, you're not really present. You may be there physically, but your mind's off somewhere else. And just like last night, my mind was off on other things. And I didn't really have anything to contribute. That's the second thing. I didn't have a lot to put in the conversations. I'm not much of a chit-chatter anyways, just generalized chit-chatter. Now, there's something important to speak to. I love to speak to that I can really make a difference. But I don't really like talking just for the sake of talking. I really value quiet and stillness and time to think. So I'm not a whole lot of a chit-chatter. I can do it for a little bit, and then I'm about done. But I didn't have anything to contribute, nothing meaningful I felt to contribute. Now, a person with the empty glove syndrome can also seem not to care, right? We've talked to people like that, and it just seems like they're just checked. They have no idea what's going on, nor do they really care. And I don't like feeling that way, because it just shows again that my mind is elsewhere. And I'm just not really there. I'm present, but I'm not present. Physically I'm present, mentally I'm not present. And it can end up being very uninteresting, and it can give a bad impression. And sometimes I feel like, if you're in that kind of a mode, it's better just to explain that, and graciously kind of back out and take the time that you need to recharge. And especially during the holidays, it can get really busy. And, I had a friend that used to call it a people hangover. She said, no, I don't want to go there. I've got a people hangover. I've interacted so much with people recently that it's like I've got a hangover from them. I'm just done. It gave me a headache. I just don't want to deal with it anymore. And, so when we get in that state, we can be pretty uninteresting, and we don't want to leave that lasting impression of being uninteresting. It can be better to back off and put in some time for ourselves. So some of the reasons for that, like I mentioned, that there are other things on our mind. There were some people on my mind yesterday that were concerning me, and my mind was kind of on them. And in light of some of those major things, I didn't feel like just making merry and chit-chatting, like I said.
Jeff will be back shortly to wrap up today's message. This is Gabriela, still on the scene today with Talk Network Radio. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd. If you've missed any part of today's message, you can hear it again online, as well as the entire archive of Empowered Living at www.talknetworkradio.com or search keyword #EmpoweredLiving. We would like to acknowledge our music partners, Sound Ideas for Corporate to the Max and Kevin MacLeod for Airport Lounge. Any scriptures read during this broadcast are from the New American Standard Version of the Holy Bible. If you would like to learn more about Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, visit www.jeffbyrdcoaching.com. That is JEFFBYRD coaching.com. Do a Facebook search for @CoachingRocks or drop Jeff a line at jeff@jeffbyrdcoaching.com. Again, JEFFBYRD coaching.com. Let Jeff's Coaching Rocks be the building blocks of your empowered success. Now, let's go back to Jeff for the rest of today's message.
The other thing is it can just be fatigue. And I think this is a chronic issue in our culture. I really do. I think just working all the time and to exhaustion is something that's applauded. I think it's deplorable. I think being exhausted just makes you not your best, not your sharpest, not making your best contributions. I think taking rest, taking time for yourself, taking time to think and reflect, those things make you the most valuable to yourself and to the people around you. Sometimes it's just bad timing. The timing's just not on. You're just not clicking. You thought it was going to be good, everything else, and the timing's just not right. You're just not feeling it. Like I remember years ago, I worked with a guy, and he was in the Army, and he was working out all the time and doing physical training. And he told me once, he said, if you've got a big run plan, and you get to that day and you just really don't feel like it, he said, you shouldn't do it. He said, now you may just be not motivated. You can get yourself a little motivated, have a cup of coffee and go do it. He said, but if your body's just really not feeling into it, he said, you shouldn't push it because you can end up, your body could be talking to you and you could end up getting an injury from it. So the timing might be off. There can be some unresolved issues floating around. A lot of the things that we experience, need more thinking, need more resolution. And I'm the kind of person that I have to get alone and just think through something on my own until I can come to some peace with an issue, and then I can move forward. If it's a major issue and I don't take that time, I'll be scattered. I'll be distracted, and I'll be really, I can get really grouchy and kind of grumpy that way until I get that time to really get still and get clear. And, it can be from a self-focus too. Sometimes, I can just go in, and a lot of people just don't have the mindset to connect with other people and go, okay, how are you doing for real? And reading between the lines and really, being able to be present and to see them. I did a session, a podcast back some weeks ago on, being considerate, and a lot of people, they just don't consider other people. That can make us like, shaking hands with an empty glove too. And I don't want to be that. And if I'm at a point where I need some self-care, in order for me to then be able to get my issues resolved so I can be considerate, then I need to do that. It's kind of like the warning on the airplane, that in the unlikely event of sudden cabin depressurization, the oxygen mask will automatically fall from the overhead compartment. But if you're traveling with small children or those who need your help, put yours on first. We can't give what we don't have, right? We can't give it. And if we're exhausted and scattered and have issues going on and we're not taking that time for ourselves, we can't really consider and be present and be attentive with other people. And they may feel like they're shaking hands with an empty glove. So just a few thoughts on how to combat this empty glove syndrome is number one, like I've been talking, proper self-care, getting some rest, not scheduling margin time on your day, not just packing that thing, event after event after event after thing to do after thing to do. Give yourself some time. As has been said, you may have heard, we're not human doing, we're human being. That means we need some time just to be who we are, just to be still, not to have to be addressing things and dealing with issues. Sometimes that taking that time for ourselves, we need to do, even if it means missing events and saying no. Most of us who have gained some improvement in the area of saying no, we love it. It's one of our favorite words. I love you, but no. Not going to do that. Not right now. I know it's not where I need to be. I know it's not my thing. I know it's going to put too much on my plate and stress me out too much, and I won't be my best. So I'm going to have to say no to it. And that's perfectly all right. Do it kindly, do it respectfully, but do what you need to do. So I think it's better to honestly cancel something or not sign up for it in the first place than to show up and be an empty glove, right? Because none of us want to be the empty glove. They're no fun to be around. We know from experience, and we don't want to be that way. So, and one thing that I've realized there's been times when I'm like, boy, this is just the wrong timing for this. And I've been really nervous about calling out to somebody saying, hey, listen, can I please take a rain check on this thing we've got planned, postpone that. And, it's been amazing to me. I don't like to do that. I always feel kind of guilty when I do that. But, I found that so many times when I do that, the others felt the same way. They were like, oh my gosh, yeah, that would actually, well, I'm so glad you called. I was just kind of overwhelmed and stressed out too. I didn't want to say anything, but yeah, I'd love to reschedule it. That'd be great. It is amazing how many times that's been the case. So canceling at a time that's bad for you may very well bring relief to others too. It may have been a bad time for them too. And if not, most of us have been around long enough to understand that these times come and to give each other some grace and reschedule and have a nice evening to ourselves and do something else we want to do. And then we all need to plan time to do what restores us. And I found, like for me, it's just being quiet. It's being quiet sometimes. It's taking a walk alone in nature. It's just thinking or reading. But I found that there's a lot of things. People are different in this. So what restores me may not be restorative to you. It may bore you out of your mind. But you need to find the thing that restores you. It could be silence. It could be nature. It could be meditation. It could be prayer. It could be reading. For some people, it's exercise. It's going out and taking a walk. I was talking to my pastor the other day and asking him what he did to restore himself. And he was like, it sounds kind of silly, but, just taking the dog for a walk. He said, I don't just sit still real well. I like to be in motion, like to be doing something, and sitting still, can not be restorative for me. He said, but so often just engaging in something that I really like, that doesn't take a lot of input or interaction, but just to still be doing something is restorative. So we all need to find what restores us, and we've got to put it on the calendar. Let me tell you, other people will try to make you feel guilty, especially in this culture. They'll be like, who are you? What makes you so special to get to take some time for yourself when I'm working so hard? Don't listen to it. Try to get them to take some time for themselves, but whether they do or whether they don't listen to it. Take the time you need to be your best. And if it seems, hopefully it doesn't, but if it seems to inconvenience somebody else, that is too bad. Be as gracious as you can, but do what you've got to do. Because at the end of the day, you're the only one who can be your best. And if you're not, you're